OSCE briefing, SMM OSCE regarding the activities of OSCE in Ukraine. The floor is given to Mr. Alexander Hug, Deputy Head of the Special Monitoring Mission of OSCE. We are going to listen to the English language speech, so anybody who would like to take the headphones, you can do that in the end of this room. Sir, you have the floor. Доброго дня.
For our panel to come here, I would like to thank you for your interest in this briefing by the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission, and it allows me to update you on the most recent developments as seen by our monitors across Ukraine, but of course in particular in the eastern part of the country. As required under the addendum to the package of measures to the implementation of the Minsk agreements, which has been signed last week, the SMM monitored the beginning of the withdrawals of weapons under this addendum. The withdrawal is to be implemented in two stages. First, most of the security zone in the Luhansk region will have to be withdrawn, and it is implemented by weapon types, first tanks, then artillery pieces, then mortars, and all of that should be taken in total 15 days. Both the Ukraine Armed Forces and so-called LPR have started the process. Both have provided the SMM with some of the baseline information stipulated in the addendum. The SMM has observed the withdrawal of tanks into permanent storage sites. The respective leaderships have notified the OSCE in writing that the withdrawal of tanks from this area, the stage number 1, has been completed. The SMM has already started verifying ongoing compliance and will continue to do so. To facilitate this process, and indeed to generally enhance our patrolling, we have established forward patrol bases in the so-called LPR-controlled Stakhanov and in government-controlled Novo Aidar. These are new permanent presences of the SMM in that region. We have also opened a forward patrol base in the Donetsk region that is in government-controlled Volnovakha. We continue to observe, dear friends, the relative calm in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions that has been holding since the beginning of September. Although we still record small arms fire and explosions, they are mostly attributed to training and demining activities. Also, the number of small arm fire incidents has significantly decreased since the signing of the addendum. Yet, just yesterday in the Luhansk region, in government-controlled Troitske, the SMM followed up on reports of 2 wired anti-tank guided missile fired, injuring Ukraine Armed Forces soldiers. The SMM continued to revisit heavy weapon holding areas in both sides of the contact line. The situation remained unsatisfactory, with weapons missing from both Ukraine Armed Forces sites and so-called DPR sites. The SMM has also observed heavy weaponry and equipment beyond the respective withdrawal lines on several occasions. On 4th October, the SMM observed 2 towed artillery pieces in the area of DPR-controlled Oktyabr, and a self-propelled howitzer and a tank in the area of DPR-controlled Bezimene. The following day, in so-called LPR-controlled areas, the SMM observed 12 self-propelled howitzers in the area of Wrubivivsky and 7 towed howitzers near Uspenka. While the SMM welcomes the relative low number of firing incidents, civilians in Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast continue to face the very serious threat posed by mines and unexploded ordnance. When I refer to civilians, I include here my own colleagues, of course, our monitors out there in the eastern part of the country. But the main threat is to those living in or close to affected areas, especially those now returning to their homes and to others who may be unaware of that threat. SMM monitors have been told of affected areas, and just to mention a few examples, in government-controlled Komar, where residents spoke of unexploded ordnance and landmines in a nearby forest and along the riverbanks. Or then in Pavlopil, where as much as 35,000 hectares of agricultural land may have been affected. Or then in so-called DPR-controlled Oleksandrivka, where at least 9 areas appear to have been affected by this threat. This issue is high on the list of SMM's concerns. More than a year ago, the signatories of the Minsk Memorandum prohibited the installation or laying of mines in the security zone, and they also have agreed with their signature that all mines previously installed or laid should be removed. The SMM will continue to monitor and report on the situations experienced by people living with this threat. At the same time, we are convinced that a stronger framework is needed in order to deal with this threat. A stronger framework setting out mutually agreed principles, drawing on international norms and best practice. A stronger framework that will enable those who laid these mines to work together to identify priorities and address them. In the meantime, the SMM's primary concerns are the following. First, to minimize the risk for civilians through promoting, mapping, marking, and fencing off affected areas and mine risk education. And second, to restore peace and security at the community level through promoting and facilitating efficient clearance of land so that civilians can return to their homes and routines without the threat of mines or unexploded ordnance. The approach of the winter presents several additional challenges for people living in the security zone. They include higher prices for coal, gas, and electricity. The SMM also noted that the coal prices differ greatly, from as little as 40 euros per ton in so-called DPR-controlled areas to as much as 160 euros per ton in government-controlled areas. The same goes for gas, whereas in DPR-controlled village Ozeryanivka, gas is available at 2 euro cents per cubic meter. In government-controlled areas, the price rises up to 28 euro cents per cubic meter. Humanitarian organizations in non-government controlled areas continue to experience problems with so-called accreditation. In LPR controlled areas, the International Red Cross is still the only humanitarian provider able to deliver aid. My colleagues have continued to observe difficulties related to the freedom of movements of civilians across the contact line. We still see very long queues at checkpoints there. On 1st of October, for example, near government-controlled Novotroyske, we saw about 500 civilian vehicles in a queue to reach Volnovakha. Also, the SMM learned that the Ukrainian forces checkpoint in Marinka has been closed, forcing people to take long detours. Dear friends, on a more positive note, I am happy to inform you that the SMM facilitated preparations for the repair work of a bridge in Stanica Lukhanska. Once repaired, it will greatly improve safety and access across the contact line. Regarding the SMM's freedom of movement, which has largely been unhindered over the past week, I can inform you the following. Our unmanned aerial vehicles have seen also less jamming over this period. Finally, at the end of my presentation, as every week, I would like to update you on our mission numbers. As of today, the SMM has 548 monitors in the theater, 72 other international staff, and 269 Ukrainian colleagues that work alongside us. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, clarifications?
Reuters. Can you tell us more about the incident in Troitsky? According to Andriy Lysenko and according to your report, it was 2 anti-tank guided missiles used, which is not simple, no cheap weapon. So does it mean, does it look like that the Minsk peace agreement is under threat?
Thank you. The OSCE Special Monitoring Mission is not a judge in this respect. We have been there at the scene of where this attack occurred. We had a patrol there yesterday afternoon and inspected the damage caused to that military digger that was hit by one of the 2 wired anti-tank missiles. Even though the anti-tank missiles as such might not necessarily be captured by the addendum or by the Minsk arrangement, the firing of any weapon, a pistol, a gun, an anti-tank missile, is a violation of the ceasefire. We are very much concerned that these weapons are still being used. On the positive note, however, we are happy to see that tanks now starting moving out of the security zone, 15 kilometers each away from the contact line, which will help to reduce tensions at the contact line. But I reiterate, the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission is concerned about ongoing ceasefire violations. Every shot fired in that part of the country represents a violation of the Minsk agreements, regardless from which gun or which weapon it had been fired.
Вітаю, Руслана Заславець, телеканал 112 Україна.
Channel 112, Ukraine. Yeah? No more questions?
Your nice village names, I'm equally bad in understanding your language, so I will now have to listen to the translators here, to whom I applaud, by the way, always there back in the box translate very well my presentations here, but I'm able now to take that question. Thank you.
Власне, знову ж таки починаю.
I'll start again. TV channel 112. Regarding the commentary in the Donetsk region, the gray zone, according to our information yesterday, there were 200 militants. They actually robbed the local residents. They abducted one lady, and there was no contact to the police because they are afraid that they will be, there was some kind of revenge on the part of the militants. Do you know anything about this situation or not? So the kind of robbing and abduction of one lady in this commentary, whatever it's called, the NR-controlled area. Чи ви можете... In town Kominternovo, the militants robbed the local residents and they abducted the lady. They are afraid to approach the militia because this town is controlled by the militants. Do you have any information? Because according to our information, the OSCE SMM represents where in that time in those places.
Very much. The OSCE Special Monitoring Mission has the mandate to follow up on specific reports of incidents. And it will continue to do that. If we indeed find out of what you have alleged in your question has taken place, the result of that will be visible in our daily reports that we will be issuing. At this stage, I can't comment further as patrolling is ongoing. And you understand that verifying information is a long process. We will be reporting when we have the objective and triangulated information available.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Чи є ще запитання або уточнення?
Any other questions or clarifications?
One question at the end. Do you have, can the OSCE provide the reason for difference in gas prices for the population in the so-called DPR-controlled areas and the government-controlled areas?
No, we can't. The task of the mission is to observe what it sees and hears. And in this regard, we have been asking the residents of different places of what they pay and have seen their utility bills. We will continue to report on these issues to make sure that those who need to take decisions have the objective information available.
Okay, thank you very much. Якщо немає більше запитань чи уточнень.
If there are no more questions or clarifications, we are going to bring our press briefing to the end.
Далі будемо продовжувати з брифінгом о 14:00 і будемо говорити на тему кадрові зміни у державному підприємстві «Шахта Краснолиманська».